Well, howdy. Got a bit of bad news to put out, so I'm just going to come straight out and say it. Afraid I had to pull out of the Iron Butt Rally this year. I'm not going to be running it. There's a few different reasons why, but there's no major explanations for. So those of you that were just wondering what this video is about, that pretty much covers it. You can go ahead and move on to something else if you like. For those of you that are kind of wondering the details about it, I kind of think I owe you an explanation, especially since I've been planning on running this for the last 2 years. I got through the whole selection process, paid my way into it, and pretty much pulled out a couple weeks ago, but been kind of hoping there was some way I could still pull it off, but at this point there's no way. Three big things went wrong. First one was the bike. You know, it's kind of sad in a way because 6 months ago I was set and ready to go, 100% prepared. Right now I don't know if I could do it even if I hit the lottery. It's kind of frustrating because half a year ago I was set and ready to go, 100% prepared, and things have just completely fallen apart. Pretty much three different things happened. The first one is that my 2021 Pan Am kind of bit the dust unexpectedly on me. I already posted a video about that, where I completely lost all the electronics on it. Bike still ran pretty good, but with no dash, there's no way to run the Iron Butt Rally because a big part of the thing is they continually check your mileage on your bike as you go, and if your bike can't display the mileage, then that ain't gonna work. Strapping a GPS to it like I thought about ain't gonna cut it. They're a bit stricter than that. So I went in, put it in there, and they pretty much tore it apart. They got the dash working, but they found more electrical problems and got to the point where they felt that they weren't going to be able to get the bike back together in time for me to do the Iron Butt Rally. And so, I think I mentioned this in an earlier video, went ahead and I traded that bike in for what I consider a ridiculously high trade-in value, but that's pretty much because of the relationship I had with them the last couple of years, actually the last half a dozen years or so, with a whole bunch of different bikes, and got me a brand new 2023 Pan Am. Jumped on that thing and did like I usually do, put 1,000 miles on it in 24 hours, brought it back with the break-in thing. Bike was running great. It ran absolutely flawless through the whole Saddle Sore 1000. Dropped it off, no problems at all. They did the service, they swapped over all the farkles and stuff, and I got it back and brought it home, and then I started having problems with the bike. The first problem that I had on it was while I was heading off to work, the engine just shut off for no particular reason. You know, at the time I thought I was still in the neighborhood. I thought I had accidentally hit the kill switch and turned it off. So, I looked at the kill switch was on, so I turned it off, turned it on again, let it cycle through everything, and it fired right up, and I didn't think nothing of it. And a couple weeks later, it did the same thing. Except it did the same thing while I was doing a sharp U-turn in the middle of traffic, and it's pretty good. I kind of jerked left real hard and got the wheels up under the bike before I dropped it in the middle of the traffic. kind of coasted over into the center and shut it completely down, turned it back on again, and fired right up again. I kind of thought that was weird. But it seemed to be working, checked all the codes, not a single code. So I was still kind of wondering about it, but you know, I was still hoping it was going to be running like my last one. And the next weird problem it had was I was cruising down traffic in the middle of I-4 and the whole bike just shut down completely. I mean, electrically, totally and completely shut down. Lights off, screens off, everything's off, engine shut down. Grabbed a handful of clutch and managed to make my way across 3 lanes of traffic without getting run over. Turned it off, turned it back on, the thing fired right up again. And the first thing I did was check for codes. Not a single code. Now that's really, really strange because my last bike seemed like it'd throw a code if you thought impure thoughts around it. You know, every morning I'd come up and it'd have a whole laundry list of codes. Most of them were nonsense and I'd clear it out. This one hadn't thrown a single code since I've owned the bike, which for a Pan Am is kind of weird. They usually throw some code or another even if it doesn't show up as a check engine kind of thing. And the final thing it did on me, you know, where I decided that I need to get this thing in and they need to kind of look at it, was the bike ran completely out of gas. Ran out of gas and it still showed 65 miles till empty. It was running, then the bike just kind of all of a sudden coughed and stuff. Kind of reminded me how my other bike was running with the fuel pump thing, and I was thinking that can't be a bad fuel pump already. You know, I've got less than 1,500 miles on it. And I took it at a time, turned it off, turned it back on. I heard the fuel pump whine, but it didn't sound like it was doing anything. So I popped open the lid, shook it around, and you can't really see the whole tank, but you can hear gas slosh around, and there was so little sloshing around, I knew I was out of gas. So shut it off, got some gas, came back, turned the bike back on. When I turned it on, when I came back, it was showing empty, 0 miles left. You know, when I went to go gas, it was showing 65 miles to empty. And that's just not going to work on the Ironboat Rally. So right now with this bike, I just don't have a whole lot of confidence of it. And that was the first of the big problems I'm looking at with this bike. But I was still kind of thinking that, you know, there might be some way to pull this out. I might get down there and they may have some new update and that might fix all these problems. But second problem is that, you know, in the process of prepping the other bike, dumping the other bike, buying a brand new bike, I've pretty much wiped out all the money I set aside to run the Ironboat Rally. But I didn't really care because I kind of had an ace in the hole. I got a Jeep Rubicon, and I figured I was just going to sell that, get the money to run the Ironboat Rally with that, and you know, just get wet riding to work. I'm pretty used to doing that anyways. Well, went home, checked the Rubicon out, and the radiator split. Like water's just pouring out of it when I pour in. You know, where they had the plastic side tank on the aluminum, just dumping out of there. So I figured, okay, I'll just top it up with water, I'll run down to Jeep and see if I can get some parts. So did that, went to fire it up, and the starter solenoid don't work. So I need a new starter, new radiator. Got on the phone with Jeep. Of course, for my year Rubicon, those 2 parts are on national back order. They ain't no fixing it. Got a hold of a local Jeep shop here, and got a quote from them how much they would charge for a radiator, you know, to replace the radiator and the starter for me. And they gave me a quote that was so ridiculous I had to ask twice. Now, they said $5,400, and I was thinking $500. They wanted $5,400 to replace a radiator and a starter. And I kind of decided that I didn't want people under the influence of whatever type of drug they were doing to be working on my Rubicon. So that plan was gone. And the third thing came up while I was on the phone with the mortgage company, unsuccessfully trying to talk them into extending me a equity line of credit on my house. They weren't too enthusiastic about the idea. I guess, you know, having a GI Bill loan has something to do with them not being able to do it or anything like that. Well, while I was on the phone with them, my wife came in, and she was really, really upset, and it was pretty obvious that she had been crying. So I pretty much hung up because there was no chance there, and found out what was going on. Well, evidently on the road back this ways, before my wife got there, some idiot squid decided to go zipping through traffic and ran square in the back of some truck. Well, my wife wasn't there to see it, which is probably a good thing, but traffic was running real slow, so she had a chance to crawl along at probably 2 miles an hour and watch them hosing the blood off of the nice white concrete slab from a motorcycle wreck as she went by. Now, I do love my wife. I care a lot for her. She means everything to me, and she has put up with so much. You know, not just me and all this crazy motorcycle stuff that I go do for days and weeks at a time, but, you know, so much of the nonsense I volunteered for and did when I was in the military that, you know, I figured, you know, enough was enough. The bike ain't there, the money ain't there, and she's a wreck, sure that I'm going to die on this thing. So I figured, yeah, enough is enough. So I made the decision. I got a hold of the folks running the Iron Butt Rally and told them I'm afraid I'm going to have to pull out. So that's where it sits right now. Right now, I really don't have any plans for anything. This is something I'm just going to have to think about and digest a while. Going to have to take a step back and look at everything. Kind of regroup and decide where I want to go with this YouTube channel from here. But when I figure it out, I'll let you all know. I filmed a couple of episodes I never got around to editing because I've been dealing with all this other stuff. So if I can get myself motivated enough, I'm going to go ahead and stick them on there. But for now, this is where we stand. Pretty much nowhere. Yeah, I appreciate the folks that have been following me so far, and no hard feelings for those of you that are going to go ahead and move on somewhere else, because there's not going to be a whole lot of Pan Am content after these two pre-recorded ones coming up. Well, that's it. Take care, and I wish y'all a lot better luck than I've been having.